The story begins with Takamori-kun, lost in his thoughts. Little did he know that his deskmate, Minami Kawa-san, was onto his secret. He remains clueless that his crush is actually a mind reader. She catches wind of his thoughts about fancying her. The revelation of his feelings leaves her completely flabbergasted. Of all the secrets her mind reading could reveal, crushes, gossip, even test answers, she had to uncover this one. Since childhood, Minami has had the unique ability to hear people's thoughts. She can pick up every stray thought that crosses someone's mind, from the mundane to the bizarre. Over time, she has learned to tune out the constant mental chatter of those around her, especially since she entered high school. It no longer bothers her. However, things are different when it comes to Takamori-kun. As Takamori muses about her being cute, her heart pounds as she quickly shakes her head, trying to block him out. Despite his bluntness, he's popular with the girls. Coming out of her thoughts, she glances at him sitting beside her, as no boy had ever said that to her before. Her own thoughts start overwhelming her, and without realizing it, she mentally yells at Takamori to get a hold of himself. When he turns towards her in confusion, she immediately freezes, inhaling deeply, trying to compose herself. She mentally scolds herself for almost letting out a dangerous reaction. She must stay calm and ignore it, just as she always does. As she tries to gather herself, an eraser from Takamori's hand slips and falls to the ground. Picking it up, she turns to him and asks if he dropped it. Takamori looks at her with a puzzled expression before thanking her. As she hands him the eraser, he catches a close glimpse of her, his mind racing with excitement. He finds her kind for picking up his eraser, believing that it's love. Minami, hearing these thoughts loud and clear, turns red with embarrassment, small beads of sweat forming on her forehead. Takamori is staring directly at her, lost in his own emotions. Quickly, he averts his gaze, mutters thanks, and mentally scolds himself for staring too much. Minami picks up on both his words and his thoughts. The dual realization overwhelms her, and she suddenly places her hands over her ears, internally screaming. She is so embarrassed that she can't take this. Takamori, completely unaware of her distress, continues thinking about her and decides that the eraser she handed him must now become an heirloom. Minami feels like steam is about to escape from her ears. The endless stream of his thoughts about her is too much. In her mind, she starts vividly imagining him saying those love words directly to her. The sheer embarrassment of it all makes her feel like she is about to die from mortification. If this were to happen, she thinks that the cause of death would undoubtedly be listed as death of embarrassment. A memory flashes through her mind, a time when her teacher had patted her on the head. That small moment of physical contact had embarrassed her so much that she'd almost lost her composure. But this was on a completely different level. Minami tries to steady herself as she continues to hear Takamori's thoughts. A bashful person like her is in danger right now. She closes her eyes, resting her forehead against her hand. In the first place, she's also at fault, selfishly reading his mind. A wave of guilt washes over her. She silently apologizes to Takamori in her heart. Over time, she has learned to ignore the insults as annoying, ugly, stupid words she has heard from countless minds. She always chose to endure them. Yet now, instead of blocking thoughts, she finds herself secretly listening to Takamori's heartfelt ones. Perhaps, she thinks, it would be better if she simply ignored his thoughts. It would be better if she had to listen to her insult or anything else. Minami stands lost in thought, considering a bold idea. What if she could make Takamori hate her? The thought deepens and she envisions the scenario. If he starts to despise her, if he begins saying harsh things, she can simply ignore him. But then she hesitates. If she just declares that she hates him, wouldn't that be strange? It's not like she's confessing anything, but still, the thought lingers. Just then, Takamori asks her for a favor, requesting to see the materials. Minami recognizes this as her chance. She pauses before finally replying that she doesn't mind. But the moment the words leave her mouth, she scolds herself internally that this was her opportunity to refuse. Abruptly, she changes her stance and firmly states that he cannot see the materials. She pats herself on the back, convinced she seized it, all the while imagining Takamori rolling his eyes at her and mentally drafting hate mail about her selfish ways. However, as she waits for his reaction, she suddenly feels an overwhelming sense of embarrassment. Perhaps she overreacted, but instead of looking annoyed, Takamori stares at her, deep in thought. And then his mind echoes in her ears as he finds her unbelievably cute. Shock washes over Minami. She listens further as Takamori mentally praises her cool attitude, believing great things will come from it. With newfound determination, he simply responds with a casual agreement. As Minami feels her heart start to sprint, she can't help but wonder, why did he just agree to this so easily? Feeling a wave of guilt, she quickly blurts out an apology for fibbing about the materials and hands over her notebook. He thanks her, but his inner thoughts betray his true feelings as he loves that she can be playful. Minami feels the heat rush to her face. She can't take any more of this. If only Takamori would stop thinking so much. The school bell finally rings, marking the end of class. Relief floods Minami as she dashes out of the room, heading straight for the girls' restroom. She tries to clear her mind, but the thoughts persist. She scolds herself internally, questioning how he could think so much. It makes her head spin. She's never experienced this level of affection, and it's overwhelming her. If she doesn't do something fast, her mind will explode. Determined, she decides there's no other choice. She must make him hate her. Determined, she calls Takamori to the rooftop, steeling herself for what must be done. When he arrives, he casually says it's fine and asks what she wants to talk about. Inside, he's thrilled. Minami called him to the rooftop. Could it be? He wonders if this is a confession. Minami suppresses her nerves, meets his gaze, and asks what he thinks of her. This is it. She believes the best way to make a boy hate her is to force him to confess, then reject him as harshly as possible. Reassuring herself, she convinces herself it's fine, even if he ends up hating her. But Takamori becomes incredibly nervous. His mind becomes a whirlwind of emotions. Minami listens, trying to process his thoughts, but it's too much. All he is thinking about is how wonderful she is, how much he admires her. The overwhelming praise is too much for her to handle, and before she knows it, she loses her balance and faints. Takamori instinctively reaches out and asks if she's okay. Minami, clutching her head, exclaims that she is dying. Takamori doesn't understand what she means, confused by her reaction. Meanwhile, she fumes internally, frustrated beyond belief. She silently vows to crack the code and get him to chill out. And thus, their heart-throbbing story truly begins. She reflects on her unusual ability to read minds, something she has grown used to except with Takamori. His thoughts about her are filled with warmth and care, leaving her unbearably flustered. More than anything, she wishes he would hate her, just to end the constant stream of affectionate thoughts. If this continues, she feels she might die of embarrassment. To her, enduring insults would be easier than facing this overwhelming awkwardness. Resolving herself, she decides she must make Takamori hate her as soon as possible before her heart gives out. Just as she makes this decision, the school bell rings, signaling the end of the day. A wave of relief washes over her, knowing that she can finally have a break from listening to Takamori's thoughts. She steps out of the classroom, exhausted from all the mental strain, and muses that it is best to retreat for today. However, just as she is about to leave, she suddenly realizes that she has forgotten her bag inside the classroom, something that has never happened to her before. Panicking, she rushes back inside, only to find Takamori sitting at his desk, surrounded by stacks of paper. The sight surprises her, and she instinctively asks if he is not heading home yet. He responds in a slightly surprised tone, explaining that the teacher asked for his help in grading test papers. Minami toys with the idea of lending a hand, but decides against it since she knows it will reignite his thoughts of her. That's the last thing she needs, more awkward moments. So she puts on her best nonchalant act, grumbling about the task and quickly wishing him well before making a swift exit. Takamori simply responds with agreement, not questioning her sudden shift in tone. As Minami walks away, she mentally apologizes to Takamori for not helping him. Just as she reaches the hallway, she picks up on his thoughts once again. He believes that he must look mean for not asking her to stay. Thinking that she could have at least helped him a little, she stops in her tracks, frustration bubbling within her. She had thought she had grown used to her ability, that she could finally live a normal high school life, but this embarrassment is unbearable. Before she can calm herself, more of Takamori's thoughts reach her. To him, she is truly a kind person. Hearing this, Minami leans against the wall, feeling completely overwhelmed. She slowly slides down to sit on the floor, burying her face in her hands. She wants to refute his thoughts, insisting that she is not as kind as he thinks she is. Small part of her contemplates going back and helping him after all, since there is still much work to be done. However, she immediately shakes her head, reprimanding herself. No, she must steel her heart. She convinces herself that this is all for the sake of a peaceful high school life. But despite her internal resistance, she ultimately finds herself returning to the classroom, deciding that she will help him. Now, seated beside Takamori, the two quietly work on grading the test papers. As they do, he starts pondering about Minami again. He admires her kindness and secretly loves it. The moment Minami hears this, she panics internally, urging him to focus on their work and finish quickly. As they continue, Minami's pen suddenly runs out of ink. She hesitates before asking Takamori if she can borrow his pen. Without hesitation, he hands it to her, but in doing so, their hands make contact. Caught off guard, Minami quickly apologizes, but Takamori simply tells her it is okay. As she listens to his thoughts, she realizes that he is happy about the accidental touch, considering himself lucky. Her mind nearly short-circuits from shame, and she sinks down from her chair onto the floor, completely overwhelmed. Takamori looks at her in concern and asks if she is okay, but Minami mentally blames him for putting her in this position. She takes a moment to collect herself before realizing something crucial. Despite all of this, Takamori remains composed, his face showing no signs of embarrassment. It frustrates her beyond belief. She is the only one feeling flustered while he remains completely unfazed. The reason, she concludes, is that he has never confessed his feelings out loud. Because of this, she cannot bring herself to say that she hates him. Determined to change this, she decides that she must make him confess. With newfound resolve, she suddenly calls out his name and, without any hesitation, directly asks if he likes her. The moment the words leave her lips, the room falls silent. Both she and Takamori freeze, neither knowing how to react. Takamori, caught off guard, struggles to find a response, but before he can say anything, Minami immediately backtracks. She realizes that she has pushed past her limit of embarrassment and cannot handle it any longer. Without another word, she abruptly dashes out of the room, shouting at him to forget everything she just said. Offering a quick farewell, she runs away, leaving Takamori completely stunned. As he watches her retreating figure, confusion and amusement mix within him. Then, as realization dawns upon him, he cannot help but smile. He's caught off guard by her out-of-the-blue question, but at the same time, his heart starts to do a happy dance. The thought of Minami makes his heart feel like it is going to explode, and he cannot deny that every moment he spends with her is nothing short of exhilarating. Minami rushes out of high school, her thoughts in turmoil. The weight of what she has done presses heavily on her mind. Throughout the day, whether she is walking, talking, or even trying to sleep, the same thought lingers as she has made a terrible mistake. Her mind replays the moment when she blurted out such an outrageous thing to Takamori. She cannot believe she allowed herself to get carried away like that. The embarrassment eats away at her, making her feel overly self-conscious. She convinces herself that she must look completely ridiculous right now. As morning arrives, Minami finds herself in the classroom, exhausted from an entire night spent overthinking. She hardly slept and has no idea how she'll face him. Just then, Takamori walks in and takes his seat. Seeing him, she startles slightly but manages to greet him with a good morning. In response, he quietly mumbles a response back to her. As Minami watches him act like his usual self, she starts to wonder if maybe she's just been overanalyzing the whole situation and things are actually fine. However, within Takamori's mind, it is a completely different story. His thoughts race uncontrollably. He cannot stop thinking about what Minami had said the previous day. No matter how much he tries, the words linger in his mind. He is so conscious of her presence that he cannot even look her in the face. His restless night was spent obsessing over her words. Minami accidentally taps into his mind, her eyes widening in surprise. Who knew he was such a deep thinker? She considers that it all adds up in the end. Takamori, on the other hand, can't help but dive deep into the rabbit hole of why she brought it up in the first place. His brain goes into turbo mode, questioning if Minami can already see through his facade. Are his feelings for her as clear as day? Or maybe, just maybe, he's overthinking it all. But regardless of his mental gymnastics, he makes a vow to keep his emotions under wraps. Gotta keep that poker face on so Minami doesn't catch on to his little crush. Listening to all of this, Minami feels even more troubled than before. This is becoming too much. She wants nothing more than for Takamori to hate her so she can escape this constant embarrassment. Soon, the physical training class begins. Minami participates in the marathon, but even as she runs, her mind remains preoccupied with Takamori. She must end this quickly. She needs to make him hate her, and only then will she be freed from his thoughts. Just as she resolves to act, her foot catches on a rock, and she falls face first onto the ground, sliding painfully forward. Scratches mark her face, and her knee takes the worst of it. Throbbing with pain, she sighs internally, concluding that today is simply not her lucky day. Perhaps this is karma punishing her. The coach rushes over and asks if she is all right. Forcing a weak smile, she reassures him that she is fine. When the coach asks for a volunteer to take her to the nurse, she quickly declines, insisting that she can go on her own. Though she wants to be independent, she cannot help but hear the thoughts of the other students, and none of them want to leave the race to help her. Accepting her situation, she slowly makes her way toward the infirmary alone, grumbling to herself about how she always ends up in these situations. She adjusts her shoe while lost in thought, but as she presses her foot against the ground, sharp pain shoots through her leg, forcing her to sit down in agony. Her ankle is twisted, and now she realizes that she should have accepted help after all. She glances around. The school is mostly empty since everyone else is still outside. Just as she resigns herself to her misfortune, she hears her name being called. Takamori's voice startles her, and as she looks up, she finds him kneeling beside her. He asks if she is all right, his concern evident in his expression. Minami blinks at him in confusion before quickly asking why he is here. Takamori hesitates and fabricates an excuse, and he came back to the school building to retrieve something he forgot in the classroom. However, having already heard his thoughts, Minami knows this is a lie. Takamori looks at her injury and asks how bad it is. She brushes it off, saying she is fine and just resting. Forcing a bright smile, she reassures him and then urges him to return to the marathon before the teacher gets angry. However, Takamori suddenly reaches out and grabs her hand, preventing her from getting up. He tells her that she does not seem fine to him. Minami is left speechless, her mind momentarily freezing. She cannot believe he just did that. To her horror, Takamori offers to carry her. Before she can refuse, he has already lifted her onto his back. Shocked beyond words, Minami panics internally. She mentally screams about how mortifying this situation is. Being carried by a male classmate like this is beyond embarrassing. She forces out an awkward laugh and tries to convince him that she is heavy and that he should put her down. Takamori dismisses her concerns, saying that she is very light. She internally groans. This is exactly what she wanted to avoid. If she listens to his thoughts now, she knows she will die of embarrassment. But no matter how much she resists, Takamori's inner voice reaches her mind. He acknowledges that Minami never likes to burden others, but he still finds this part of her endearing. He wishes she would rely on her surroundings more, and if she ever chose to rely on him, he would be genuinely happy. Minami listens in silence, unable to handle it. As they continue walking, Takamori suddenly asks if she has a fever because her body feels hot. Minami quickly denies it, but the remark leaves her flustered. Takamori finally arrives at the infirmary and carefully places her down. Promising to fetch help, he's halted by Minami's sweet voice calling out. With a gracious smile, she appreciates the piggyback ride and boldly vows to return the favor if he ever needs it. Takamori pauses, visibly stunned by the statement. Minami, however, is serious. She enthusiastically strikes a macho pose, boasting about how strong she is. She insists that she could easily carry him, and if he ever needs help, she will be there. For a moment, Takamori simply stares at her. Then he pictures Minami actually carrying him in a princess hold. The very thought leaves him speechless. Meanwhile, Minami is internally pleased as if she ever gets to carry him. It will fluster him just as much as she has been flustered today. That would be the perfect way to settle things between them. Takamori processes the image in his head and finally responds with a small, amused smile. He thanks her. As he leaves, he stops by the nurse's station and casually mentions that Minami might have a fever. The nurse approaches Minami, asking if she feels unwell. Embarrassed by Takamori's comment, she flusteredly denies having a fever. The day has been filled with unexpected events, and Minami is left wondering how she always finds herself in such situations. She sighs to herself, knowing that this is far from over. After school, Takamori notices Minami standing right beside him, requesting his phone. Without a second thought, he hands it over to her. Minami, in a hurry, pulls out her own phone and quickly taps on the screen before returning his mobile and preparing to leave. As she walks away, she casually remarks that she will see him soon. Takamori stands there, puzzled. He wonders what just happened. As he glances at his phone, he sees something unexpected because Minami has saved her contact in his friend list, placing it among his family contacts. Shocked, he stares at the screen, his mind racing. Meanwhile, Minami walks off, chuckling mischievously. Later that day, back at the crib, Takamori is glued to his phone. Across town, Minami is feeling pretty glad for scoring his number. Now, she can spam his messages continuously until he becomes annoyed and starts hating her. She believes that if she overwhelms him enough, his thoughts about her will completely disappear, allowing her to return to a peaceful high school life. Feeling victorious, she thinks to herself, well then, let's text him. As Takamori is busy changing out of his uniform, his phone buzzes with a notification. He checks it and sees that Minami has sent him a message informing him that she has reached home. He chooses to ignore it and continues with his activities. Meanwhile, Minami keeps waiting. An hour passes, then another. 2 hours go by and still there is no reply. She assumes that he might have fallen asleep, but she keeps checking her phone, her messages piling up. Eventually, she realizes that he has read all of them but still has not responded. Shocked, she wonders why he is behaving this way. Panic sets in as she thinks, did she annoy him too much? Then she considers another possibility. No, wait, that would actually be a good thing. Minami starts to feel uneasy. Since she can no longer read his mind, she has no way of knowing what he is thinking. Takamori is caught off guard, thinking to himself, how a text from her made his day. Yet he can't decide how to respond. Should he stick to his simple, just got home excuse or spice things up a bit? He contemplates writing a cheerful thank you message, something like, "Hey, thanks for adding me. I'm super happy." But that idea is quickly rejected as well. He starts pressuring himself to think of the perfect response, struggling to find the right words. After much deliberation, he finally makes a decision and sends Minami a message. Minami's phone rings, and she rushes to check it. However, when she opens the message, she is met with a strange sticker. She stares at it in confusion, unsure of what it even means. Then it dawns on her, and he is already trying to end the conversation. A part of her finds this amusing. She has not even spammed him that much, and he already seems annoyed. As Takamori sulks around, he contemplates whether he should just rely on stickers since he feels like his messaging game is weak. He sets his phone aside, pondering why someone like Minami would be interested in someone as plain and boring as him. He questions if talking to him could ever be interesting, wishing his social skills were better. It seems like he's always asking for the impossible. His thoughts are interrupted when his phone suddenly starts ringing. He wonders who could be calling at this hour. Assuming it is his mother who might have called him by mistake, he takes a deep breath and answers with a simple hello. But to his surprise, the voice on the other end calls his name, and it is Minami. She curiously asks why he has not replied to her messages yet and confesses that she decided to call him instead. Still lost in his own self-doubt, Takamori apologizes to her. Minami, standing near her window, smiles slightly and reassures him that there is no need to worry, it is fine. However, as the call continues, she realizes that their conversation has come to a halt once again. Even though they are on call, nothing is being said. She tries to guess what Takamori is thinking right now. Maybe something along the lines of "I like you and you're really cute." She considers Takamori's true nature. He is not the talkative type. Rather, he is more of a lone wolf. As the silence lingers over the call, Minami decides that she must say something. She tells him to look outside. Sliding open his window, Takamori steps forward and gazes out. Minami tells him that there is a full moon tonight and that it looks beautiful. She then asks if he can see it from where he is. Staring up at the sky with his usual blank expression, Takamori realizes that they are both looking at the same moon. However, beyond the sight of the moon, there are many more things he wants to say. He grows frustrated, unable to put his feelings into words. If only he could just speak his heart out, he thinks. His mind drifts back to the day of the entrance ceremony when he first saw Minami helping an elderly woman. Pulling himself back to the present, he responds, saying that yes, tonight's moon is indeed beautiful. Minami suddenly freezes, feeling nervous. Her grip on her phone loosens and it slips from her hands. Quickly composing herself, she reassures herself that Takamori is merely talking about the actual moon and not her. Meanwhile, he notices that Minami has hung up the call. As he stands there in confusion, his younger sister slides open the window and approaches him. She curiously asks if the girl on the call is his girlfriend. Takamori firmly denies it, then immediately asks if she has been eavesdropping on him. His sister simply responds by pointing out what he has just said. He told Minami that the moon was beautiful, didn't he? Takamori's eyes widen as the realization hits him. Doesn't that mean I love you? His heart starts pounding as he panics, realizing his mistake. This must be why Minami hung up so suddenly. His sister scolds him, saying it is not right to say such things if he does not mean them seriously. But before she can finish, Takamori cuts her off, declaring that he is, in fact, serious. The next morning at high school, Minami rushes through the halls, reassuring herself that Takamori has probably forgotten about last night. When she spots him, she hesitates before greeting him with a nervous good morning. Struggling to find her words, she apologizes for yesterday, mumbling to herself. Making up excuses, she claims that she was just trying to distract herself, or maybe she was simply bored. Or perhaps she just wanted to try texting someone. She then tells Takamori to forget everything that happened last night. He responds with a simple okay. She assumes that he has moved on and thinks to herself, so last night wasn't a confession after all. However, Takamori then adds something that catches her off guard. He tells her not to forget what he said last night. Minami is stunned. Hearing those words, she finally realizes the truth that it was a confession after all. Completely shocked, she loses her balance and falls off her chair. Takamori finds himself lost in memory, a flashback to the day of the entrance exam. He remembers taking a deep, relaxing breath, feeling a sense of relief now that the entrance ceremony has concluded. It is finally time to go home, and he looks forward to returning to the comfort of his own space. However, before he can leave, a voice catches his attention. It is Minami, speaking kindly to an elderly grandmother, offering to carry her heavy bags. Hearing this, Takamori is struck by how kind-hearted Minami is. The elderly woman hesitates, telling Minami that the bags are too heavy for her. But Minami insists, assuring the woman that despite how she may look, she is actually quite strong. Watching this simple yet sincere act of kindness, Takamori feels his heartbeat pounding in his ears. As Minami walks alongside the elderly woman, helping her with her belongings, something shifts within him. As he falls deeper for Minami, a sudden urge takes over him to uncover her name. Could a chance encounter at school be the answer? Wondering which class she belongs to, he eagerly awaits their next meeting. As he's deep in thought at his desk, bam! The unexpected occurs. Minami walks over, hitting him with a good morning. And wait for it, she plops down right next to him. Introducing herself as Minami Kawa-san, she casually drops the bomb that she'll be his new desk buddy. Takamori is left dazed and confused, scrambling to introduce himself while trying to keep his cool. This stroke of luck feels like a dream he doesn't want to wake up from. Minami, on the other hand, picks up on his thoughts almost instantly. She reflects on how she has grown accustomed to reading people's minds and is ready to enjoy her peaceful high school life. As she walked toward her seat earlier, she observed Takamori from a distance and formed an impression of him. She assumes that the quiet boy sitting next to her should not cause any problems. However, as soon as their eyes meet, Takamori's inner thoughts burst forth in his mind, overwhelming her senses. He's completely in awe, internally exclaiming about the sheer impossibility of this moment. Minami, hearing this, is taken aback. Why is he suddenly so happy? His expression does not match his excitement at all. She greets him politely, but his inner monologue continues, making her even more confused. She wonders why he's reacting as though he already knows her. His thoughts are jumbled and loud, making her feel uneasy. She quickly realizes that his mind is far too expressive for someone who outwardly appears so calm. Days pass, and the two gradually become more familiar with each other. They fall into a casual rhythm, growing used to one another's presence. One day, Minami sits beside him, tuning into his thoughts as she often does. What she hears catches her completely off guard. He's thinking about her, calling her cute. Staring out the window, he sees her reflection and silently wonders if there could be anyone else as angelic as her. Hearing this, he feels her face heat up. A blush creeps onto her cheeks, her composure momentarily slipping. Trying to cover up her embarrassment, she blurts out an exclamation, causing Takamori to glance in her direction. Realizing she has drawn attention to herself, she quickly changes the subject, pretending to be surprised at how late it has gotten. Despite her attempts to maintain her composure, Minami cannot stop thinking about what she just heard. Internally, she screams in frustration, wishing Takamori would stop. Every day, his thoughts embarrass her more and more, and she finds herself helpless against them. She just wants him to stop making her feel this way, but at the same time, she knows there is nothing she can do to silence the voice in his mind. She accepts her fate, knowing that as long as she sits beside Takamori, his thoughts will continue to reach her. Thoughts that make her heart race in ways she never anticipated. The cooking classes are officially underway. The instructor directs the students to form groups and start preparing curry, reminding them to be careful. With eager excitement, the class gets to work. However, amidst the excitement, Minami finds herself preoccupied with lingering thoughts. She's still dwelling on what Takamori had said to her the previous day about the moon. Was it a confession? She wonders if he meant to express his love for her, but since he never explicitly said those words, she convinces herself that there is no need to overthink it. Lost in her thoughts, she suddenly hears Takamori's voice cutting through her contemplation. He calls her name and asks if he should cut the vegetables since it could be dangerous. His voice jolts her back to reality, making her feel slightly dizzy, and before she can gather herself, she loses her balance and collapses to the floor. The entire class turns their curious gazes toward her, surprised by what just happened. Takamori immediately rushes to her side, his voice filled with concern as he asks if she is all right. She quickly reassures him that she is fine, then hastily gets up, determined to shake off her embarrassment. Trying to compose herself, she begins cutting the vegetables, but an odd awareness of Takamori's presence lingers in her mind. She is too conscious of him, and in her distracted state, the knife slips and she accidentally cuts her finger. A sharp sting shoots through her hand, making her flinch slightly. Takamori notices and asks her with genuine concern if she is hurt. Reacting instinctively, she quickly denies it, saying that it is not a big deal. However, Takamori does not take her words lightly. With gentle hands, he takes her injured finger and applies a bandage with careful precision. Minami watches in silent admiration, a blush creeping onto her face at his unexpected tenderness. Takamori advises her to be more careful next time, and instead of responding verbally, she simply nods, unable to find the right words. A quiet moment passes between them before Minami, eager to change the subject, suggests that they focus on making the curry again. Trying to recover from the awkwardness, she hastily grabs a packet and pours the entire contents into the bowl, not realizing her mistake. Takamori immediately notices and points out that she has just added sugar instead. But before anything can be done, it is already too late. Suddenly, flames begin to rise from the bowl, turning their station into chaos. Takamori tries to warn her, but Minami, in her panicked state, fumbles around, making the situation even worse. She frantically picks up random ingredients, attempting to salvage the dish, but everything spirals out of control. Takamori, attempting to calm her down, tells her to stop for a moment and take a deep breath. Meanwhile, their classmates, watching the disaster unfold, exclaim that someone needs to stop her. When their dish is finally complete, it is completely burned. Their group members stare at the charred mess with expressions of disbelief. Soon, it is time for the class to taste their own creations. Everyone begins trying their dishes, but when it comes to Minami's group, her group mates hesitate, making up excuses to avoid eating it. Feeling embarrassed, Minami apologizes to them and internally reflects on her behavior, realizing that she has been acting recklessly because of her flustered feelings toward Takamori. She gazes at the burnt curry and acknowledges that no one would want to eat something like this. Then an idea pops into her mind that if no one else will eat it, then Takamori should. Maybe if he finds it terrible, he will be completely turned off by her lack of cooking skills. Determined, she picks up the dish and brings it to Takamori, placing it in front of him. She reminds him that he was hungry and insists that he eat it. Takamori, slightly taken aback, examines the dish before reluctantly taking a spoonful. His group mates watch in horror as he places the food in his mouth, waiting for his reaction. However, contrary to everyone's expectations, Takamori's expression softens, and he thinks to himself that this is the most delicious curry he's ever had. Minami, able to hear his thoughts, is completely shocked. His group mates, noticing his furrowed brows, whisper among themselves, questioning why he is still eating it despite looking slightly troubled. But Takamori is lost in thought, even finding the burnt potatoes surprisingly good. Minami, realizing what is happening, urges him to stop forcing himself to eat it. However, Takamori remains engrossed in savoring the taste, appreciating it not just for its flavor, but because Minami made it. Hearing this, Minami's face turns red with disbelief. She yells at him, insisting that she can do better and that this failure does not reflect her actual cooking skills. She grabs him by the shoulders and shakes him, urging him to stop eating. Takamori, still holding his spoon, tells her that he genuinely likes it. Frustrated, Minami challenges herself to cook something even better next time, something that he will genuinely enjoy. Takamori, slightly confused, listens as Minami continues to ramble about her plans to improve her cooking. She acknowledges that she is not very skilled in the kitchen but still wants to try. Deep in thought, she reflects on how terrible the curry truly is and starts assigning humorous names to it, calling it Death Curry or the world's #1 gross curry. But despite this, she turns to Takamori and reassures him that she will make up for it. She pleads with him to stop eating, admitting that she knows her cooking skills need improvement. Takamori, looking at her with admiration, suddenly reaches out and takes her hand, telling her that he is happy and that he genuinely wants to eat more of her cooking. Minami freezes in place, realizing that she has gotten herself into real trouble. How is she supposed to handle this now? Panicking, she quickly pulls her hand away, prompting Takamori to apologize. Meanwhile, Minami finds herself in deep contemplation. What should she make next? She begins to imagine the scenario where she lovingly prepares a meal for Takamori and, with a sweet smile, presents it to him, calling him darling and telling him that the food is ready. In her fantasy, Takamori thanks her as always, making her blush furiously at the thought. Snapping back to reality, she immediately slaps Takamori's shoulder, telling him that her imagination is moving too fast. Takamori and Minami continue discussing food, their conversation growing livelier. Meanwhile, their group mates, watching the two of them interact, exchange glances and sigh, wondering what on earth is going on between them. Minami is caught in a pickle, realizing her carefully laid plans are backfiring spectacularly. Instead of repelling Takamori, he's actually getting closer to her, much to her dismay. She ponders on how to make him dislike her, brainstorming for a fail-proof strategy. Lost in her thoughts, she strolls absent-mindedly until Takamori's pencil snaps, sending her into a panic. How did this chaos unfold? Out of the blue, Takamori materializes behind her, inquiring about what happened. Startled, Minami whirls around, nervously muttering a hesitant good morning. She awkwardly presents the broken pencil, but he doesn't hear her whispered voice. Takamori, having come to the classroom to write in his journal, takes a seat. Meanwhile, she finds herself unintentionally tuning into his thoughts, overwhelmed with frustration, internally exclaiming that he has no idea what to do. Feeling guilty, Minami realizes that since she is the one responsible for this, she must apologize. Her internal debate begins as her conscience materializes into two sides. One, a devilish version of herself, smugly tells her that if this incident makes Takamori hate her, then everything is working out perfectly. However, her angelic side, furious at such a suggestion, scolds her, reminding her that the pencil might hold sentimental value. What if it was a memorial from his grandmother? How would she feel then? Of course, even someone like Takamori would be upset over something like that. Minami is struck by this realization and panic sets in. This is not the time to overthink things. She has to hurry and apologize. She rushes back into the classroom, only to see Takamori sitting at his desk, casually using his phone. Gathering her courage, she approaches him, calling out his name. As he looks up, she freezes, suddenly feeling more nervous than ever. Holding the broken pencil tightly in her hands, she struggles to find the right words. Just as she is about to speak, their class duty officer enters, calling Takamori outside. Minami quickly hides the pencil and tells him he can go. Takamori, sensing that she was about to say something, hesitates for a moment but eventually nods and leaves. Throughout the day, she remains determined to apologize, but every attempt is thwarted. During class, she tries calling his name, but before she can speak, the teacher notices her distraction and calls her out. Frustrated, she wonders why today of all days is going so horribly wrong. Every time she tries to apologize, something stops her. Just when she works up the nerve in class, bam! The teacher calls her out. When she approaches him in the hallway, boom! Another classmate interrupts. At one point, she even tries to dramatically run up to him, only trip over nothing and roll halfway down the hall. Why is fate so against her today? The entire day, she has done nothing but search for Takamori. She runs around the school, looking for an opportunity to speak to him alone. Exhausted, she finally stops by the classroom window, lamenting how she just cannot find the right timing. She realizes something shocking, and she has spent her entire day thinking about Takamori. Embarrassment overwhelms her as she crouches down, lowering her head in disbelief. She tells herself that he will surely be upset once he finds out she broke his pencil, even more so if it holds sentimental value. With no other choice left, she decides to call him to the rooftop so they can finally be alone. Meanwhile, Takamori receives her message and is confused. This is the second time Minami has called him to the rooftop. He wonders what could be so important that she would insist on speaking to him privately. Was she upset about something? Had he unknowingly done something to offend her? His mind jumps to wild conclusions. Could it be that he had been grinning like a pervert without realizing it? Is that why Minami wants to talk to him? Just as he is about to apologize for whatever he did, Minami speaks first, holding up the broken pencil. She finally confesses that she was the one who broke it. Takamori looks at it for a moment before recognizing it as his own. Minami, flustered, explains that it was entirely her fault and apologizes for taking so long to tell him. She sincerely asks for his forgiveness. Takamori, completely calm, tells her not to worry about it. Was this really the reason she called him all the way up here? Minami is taken aback by his nonchalant reaction. Hesitantly, she asks if the pencil was a memento from his grandmother. Takamori simply laughs and explains that it was just a cheap pencil from a 100-yen store. He had actually forgotten about it until now. He reassures her that it's really no big deal. Minami nearly collapses from emotional exhaustion. Feeling an overwhelming sense of guilt, she insists on making it up to him by asking if he's free after school. Takamori, catching her drift, lets his imagination run with it. Is this a sneaky little date invite? Minami quickly corrects herself, but it's too late. Takamori is already on cloud 9. He can't help but think that if she's been thinking about him all day, he might explode from happiness. Trying to play it cool, he casually mentions that he's free after school. Secretly, he's doing cartwheels in his mind, screaming, "After-school date? Score." On the other hand, Minami is left completely dumbfounded when she realizes that she unintentionally flirted with the idea of a date. Oops, not the plan at all. After school, they walk together outside, heading towards their destination. Takamori, filled with excitement, thinks about how he is going on a date with Minami. Minami, however, feels offended at the thought. To her, this is not a date at all, and she wonders how things escalated to this point. They soon arrive at a bookstore where Minami remains focused on her intention to compensate Takamori for breaking his pencil, rather than anything remotely romantic. As they browse through the store, Minami overhears a whispered conversation from a group nearby. Someone comments on Takamori, calling him quiet and handsome. When she overhears students whispering about it, she nearly chokes on the air. She glares at him, debating whether to expose him right then and there. The audacity of the universe to let people believe Takamori is some cool, mysterious guy when he's actually a chaotic mess. Meanwhile, Takamori's thoughts remain loud in her head as he revels in his happiness, standing next to Minami outside school. He mentally thanks the heavens for allowing him to experience this moment, something that further annoys Minami. Trying to move on from her irritation, Minami asks Takamori if he has chosen something. Takamori picks up a pencil, stares at it dreamily, and thinks, this pencil is cute just like Minami. Upon hearing this, Minami grips a nearby shelf for support, her face heating up. The situation worsens when Takamori proceeds to compare multiple pencils to Minami's cuteness, each with increasing enthusiasm. This one is small and adorable, like Minami. His admiration knows no bounds, and Minami, overwhelmed, blushes furiously. Takamori struggles to decide which pencil to choose. Growing impatient, Minami quickly insists that she can pick one herself, thanking him hurriedly and directing him to another section. Takamori looks confused by her sudden outburst. To get the situation under control, Minami offers to pay and reassures him that he can pick anything he likes. Takamori, intrigued, asks if that means anything. Minami, confident that she can control the expense, tells him of course. As they continue browsing, Minami picks up a pencil and suggests it, saying it looks cool and like a good fit. When Takamori doesn't respond, she picks another one, hoping he will react. Once again, there is silence. Frustrated, she moves on and checks other pencils, only to be bombarded with more of Takamori's thoughts. He finds her adorable and likens her to a cute salesperson. Annoyed, Minami huffs and declares that she is going home, assuming that Takamori does not even care about the pencil. Takamori, lost in thought, wishes this moment could last forever. Minami, catching his internal monologue, wants him to stop thinking such embarrassing things while maintaining a straight face. To distract him, she hurriedly picks up some pencils and presents them. Finally, Takamori selects one. At the counter, the cashier announces that the pencil costs 310 yen. Minami immediately takes out her purse to pay, but Takamori beats her to it. Handing over the money, she protests, insisting that she should be the one to pay, but before she can argue further, the cashier exclaims in a loud voice, congratulating them. Both Minami and Takamori are startled by this unexpected reaction. Minami, confused, asks what is going on. The sales attendant excitedly explains that they had a promotion for couples that buy one and get an additional pencil for free. Hearing this, Minami's soul momentarily leaves her body. Takamori, meanwhile, has a completely blank expression as if his brain has crashed. Before Minami can clarify, the overly excited cashier hands over the extra pencil with a knowing wink. Takamori silently accepts it, while Minami stands frozen, mentally screaming and realizing that this is a mistake. Absurd misunderstanding. As they leave the bookstore, she remarks on how they received a free pencil even though they are not actually a couple. After a brief moment of silence, Takamori dives into the shopping bag, retrieves an extra pencil, and casually offers it to Minami, declaring it a bonus. Shocked by the unexpected gesture, Minami hesitates, rejecting the gift, claiming she hasn't earned it. She reminds Takamori that she should be the one to make up for the broken pencil since he already paid for the first one. In her thoughts, she reflects on how all she did was follow him here. Takamori, with a slight blush, confesses that he simply wanted to go with her. His words strike Minami like lightning, making her blush intensely, her eyes widening in disbelief. He hands her the pencil once more, suggesting that she take it as a token of thanks, reminding her that it is just a bonus after all. Determined not to accept it outright, Minami firmly responds that she is only borrowing it and will definitely pay him back one day. She vows that every time she uses the pencil, she will remember this promise. With a slight smile, Takamori agrees. The next day at school, Minami finds herself using that very pencil, completely engrossed in her work. The memory of their outing lingers in her mind as she writes, her thoughts carrying a strange mix of embarrassment and warmth. Takamori sits beside Minami in class, just like always, lost in his thoughts about how incredibly cute she is. His mind is filled with admiration, while Minami, on the other hand, is growing increasingly frustrated. She thinks of herself that he is loud as always, and she has had enough of it. She has run out of ideas on how to silence him. Takamori, however, has made up his mind. Today he will definitely tell Minami. She begins to wonder what exactly he plans to say, and soon, an idea takes root in her mind. Could he finally be confessing? The words form in her imagination. I like you. The thought makes her panic, and she starts to act flustered. She convinces herself that there is no doubt. This is exactly what he is going to say. Realizing the situation, Minami devises a plan. This is her perfect chance to make him hate her. The moment he confesses, she will reject him outright, ensuring that he has no chance at all. If she does this, he will be forced to stop thinking about her, and she will finally be free from hearing his constant thoughts. She decides that simply telling him she hates him will not be enough. She needs to do something drastic, something that will make him never even consider her again. She plans that as soon as he hands her a letter and confesses, she will tear it apart right in front of him. That way, he will have no choice but to despise her. The thought fills her with satisfaction. Now, she doesn't have to worry about embarrassing moments anymore. In her mind, she urges Takamori to hurry up and confess already. soon as class ends, Takamori calls her over. Minami instantly understands that this is the moment. She asks him what it is about, her heart pounding in anticipation. However, Takamori hesitates, suddenly nervous. He stumbles over his words, avoiding a direct answer. Minami grows impatient, sensing that there must be something he wants to say. She pushes him to speak, demanding if there is something he needs from her. After a brief pause, Takamori finally speaks. He tells her that he wanted to give her something. Minami immediately jumps to conclusions, convinced that this must be a love letter. She braces herself for what comes next, already preparing to act on her plan. However, to her utter shock, Takamori simply hands her a notebook. He explains that the teacher had asked him to return it to her and that he had been holding onto it. Minami stares at him in disbelief. Was that all? She asks him if this is what he wanted to say all along, her frustration growing. Takamori remains silent, and in her mind, she calls him a coward. Nevertheless, she thanks him and turns to leave. Just as she is about to walk away, she hears his thoughts again. Of course, I couldn't say that. I'll say it during our next break. Lunchtime for sure. Or after school it is. Her heart starts to race again. He is still planning to confess. This means the wait is not over yet. She sighs, feeling more impatient than ever. She doesn't want to spend the rest of the day agonizing over it. By the time after school hours arrive, Minami is seated at her desk, deep in thought. Suddenly, Takamori approaches her and calls out her name. She immediately stiffens, preparing herself. But instead of a confession, he simply says, "See you tomorrow." Minami is stunned. What just happened? Without thinking, she jumps up, rushes forward, and grabs his hand, stopping him in his tracks. In a flustered voice, she demands to know if he has something to say to her. She stares at him expectantly, waiting for the confession she was so sure would come. Takamori looks at their hands, clearly surprised. Realizing what she just did, Minami quickly lets go and apologizes, embarrassment washing over her. What was she thinking? Grabbing his hand like that? To her surprise, he hands her 2 movie tickets. For a moment, she calms down, staring at them in confusion. She asks if he is trying to say that he wants them to go together. Takamori confirms it. Minami is caught off guard and covers her face with her hands, overwhelmed. Was that all it was? Here she was, expecting a love confession, and it turned out to be just about movie tickets. She scolds herself for jumping to the wrong conclusion so quickly. How embarrassing. All day long, she had been preparing herself, and it turned out to be nothing like she imagined. Takamori notices her reaction and asks if something is wrong. Still flustered, Minami replies with a question of her own. Fine with what? He clarifies, watching a movie with him. Minami realizes that without thinking, she has already given him an indirect signal that she agrees. She is speechless, processing the situation. Meanwhile, Takamori looks at her with an expression of pure happiness. As he turns to leave, he steals one last glance at her, his face glowing with joy before bidding her farewell until tomorrow. Minami remains in her spot, completely blank. She watches him walk away, trying to understand what just happened. The expression on his face lingers in her mind. He looked so genuinely happy. And now she is left alone, grappling with the realization that things have not turned out the way she expected at all. As the school day comes to an end, Takamori Hinako steps out of her classroom, her usual cold and composed demeanor in place. Just as she is about to leave, a voice calls out to her from behind, stopping her in her tracks. Someone points out that she has forgotten her pencil case. Turning around with an expressionless face, she takes the pencil case from them and responds with a simple, cold tone thanks before walking away. Among her peers, she is often referred to as the Ice Queen, because much like her brother, her mind is filled with thoughts, yet her outward reactions remain cold and distant. This icy exterior makes it difficult for others to approach her, and as a result, most people tend to keep their distance. As she walks, she contemplates whether her reaction just now was too abrupt. Perhaps she could have responded more carefully. If she continues behaving this way, fewer and fewer people will want to talk to her. She realizes that if she ever wants to engage with others, she needs to change something about herself. But unlike her brother, she lacks the courage to take the first step. Lost in thought, she is suddenly interrupted by the presence of a classmate standing beside her. It is Taijukan, who hesitantly asks if he could borrow her notes. He explains that he had fallen asleep during class and was unable to take any notes himself. Hinako is momentarily taken aback. Someone has actually approached her to talk. And not just anyone, it is Torukan. She quickly realizes that she must respond properly to avoid making the same mistake as before. However, before she can process her words carefully, she blurts out in her usual cold manner, "Why should I?" For a second, Toju freezes, completely blank. Hinako, too, internally scolds herself. Why had she let her instincts take over again? She watches as he recovers from the unexpected response and calmly explains his reasoning. He tells her that he had noticed her handwriting was neat, and since he really needed the notes, he thought she might be the best person to ask. He assures her that he will return them soon. After a brief pause, Hinako finally hands in her notes. He thanks her before walking away, leaving her standing there, lost in her own thoughts. Despite her cold exterior, she is not that different from her brother. Just like him, she harbors feelings for the person who sits beside her in class, though she keeps those emotions locked away, unsure of how to express them. As she watches Tozukan leave with her notes in hand, she realizes that perhaps this was an opportunity, a chance to change how others perceive her, to break free from the icy image that has kept her isolated for so long. But for now, she remains as she always has been, standing in place, her heart filled with unspoken words and emotions she has yet to understand.